Good morning, Christ Church Camden. How we feeling this morning? Yeah. Hey, you guys got to sleep in, so, you're here and excited. Hey, we're so glad that you're here and that you chose to spend part of your weekend here with us this morning. It's been an incredible day so far. It's been amazing. Hey, if it's your first or your second time, or maybe you're just kind of like trying to feel it out, trying to connect in some way, we would love to do that with you. There's a few really easy ways you can do that. Hopefully you met some awesome people at a tent outside. You got to meet them and maybe just get some info. But if you'd like more, you're looking for more connect, more to figure out about who we are, why we do what we do, or maybe how you can step in and be a part of that, just stop back by those tents on your way out. They would love to talk to you, would love to walk with you, would love to connect with you in that way. It's been an amazing morning, and it's going to keep being an amazing morning and shift into an afternoon here in this third service. It's been great. We had 4 baptisms last service. 4 people chose. Yeah, it was awesome. So cool to be able to celebrate people making that decision and demonstrating and showing their church family and their church community. And it's also been an incredible morning because church is still happening despite what we like to call flooding. Okay, I don't know if you're aware, there was a bit of a storm last night, and our building on Monday night actually flooded. Some water came through the middle part, the office part of our building. Everything was wet, and there was an incredible group of volunteers who I think they sent like one text out that was like, "Get to the church," and like mountains of people just like showed up and helped us dry everything out and get everything ready. And we thought, hey man, we're all set. And then last night, round 2 happened of another storm. And so if you hear like the slight buzzing of a fan, don't go to sleep. It's not white noise for you to fall asleep. We're just trying to dry things out around here. But it's amazing that we're still going to have church. We're still going to get to worship and grow together. Like I said, baptisms. We have an amazing speaker today. I'll save it, though. She did an incredible job for the first 2. It's going to be amazing. And we get to worship together. It's going to be a great Sunday, right? All right. So, hey, let's stand and let's worship.
rock, water in the stone, manna on the ground, no matter where I go. And I don't need to worry now that I know everything I need you got. It's honey in the rock, purpose in your prayer, power in the blood, healing in your hands. It started flowing when you said it is done. Everything is easy now. It's honey in the rock.
what the Lord can do. Father God, we thank you that that is who you are, that you are a God who is still able to show up and do more than we could ever ask or imagine. Despite what life may look like, despite our circumstances, despite our failures, you see us, you know us, you want us, and you choose to use us. And so we just come before you and say thank you. Thank you for being that God who chooses to use us. And we just ask today, God, would you speak into our hearts, into our minds, into our lives, and just continue to shape us and mold us more and more like you. We ask all these things in the powerful name of Jesus. Amen.
Hey everybody, welcome to week number 3 of our series that we're calling Wild Card, where we're hearing from 4 different teachers over the course of 4 different weekends. And today, I want you to meet our special guest, our Connections pastor, April Smiley. So let's just start by hearing a little bit about where you grew up.
So I grew up here in Georgia in a little town called Milledgeville in the middle of the state. And Milledgeville is just a really cool small town that growing up felt a lot like how Kingsland feels. So it's grown a lot now, but Kingsland felt like home.
So growing up, did you have an idea of what you wanted to be or be doing at this point in your life?
So funny story, I probably never shared with you, but my brother is 6 years older and he was really mad to hear that I was a girl. So his mission in life when I came home was to make me a brother instead of a sister. So we played lots of football and learned a lot about sports back then. So when I was really little, I wanted to be a professional football player.
Okay, awesome. But you did have a career before church, and that, how long did you do? You did nursing.
I did.
Okay.
I did. So I nursed full-time from 1996 until 2013, and then I've nursed off and on since then.
Okay, so how is it that you became to be a pastor and join the staff at Christ Church?
I have no idea. It happened just kind of organically. We started coming to church here in 2012. I started serving with Chaos shortly after that, and then it just kind of kept going from there. I just fell in love with the staff and the church as a whole and the community, and found myself as the children's director, and then it just gradually evolved to this.
And I got here in 2018, you're like, this is the life, so we're rolling with it. So,
That's right.
Real quickly, you prefer the beach or the mountains?
Oh, mountains, 100%.
Really?
Yep.
Okay. What about to watch the movie or read the book?
Read the book.
Read the book. Okay, awesome. Today, would you help me welcome April Smiley as she comes to teach for us?
And watched it, you should do it. It's about the most humbling and embarrassing thing you could do. So I've been here, like I said, I've worked on staff here since 2013, and I've had the honor to wear a few different hats, none of which is teaching pastor. So the last time that I was asked to be up here and to share a little bit of my story and how God is working in my life was 5 years ago. Don't run. Don't run. Don't leave. Don't be scared. Just sit with me for just a minute. Say a little prayer just that I can just speak clearly. I'm a firm believer, because it has been done for me, that when we share our story and we share how God is working in our lives, that it just has the ability to have an impact on others. So that's just my prayer today, that maybe if you can identify a little bit with my story and be encouraged like I have been by the way God has shown up in my life, that, like I said, you'll just walk away here with a little bit of encouragement. So when John asked me to come and teach today, we were actually in the beginning of a series called Weeds in My Garden. And I don't know if you were here, but it was a deep dive into mental health. And if you missed it, I would invite you to go back to the website, check out all of our resources. It was a really awesome and yet challenging series that we did. And I don't know about you, for the ones that you did hear it from me, it really got me deep in my thoughts, okay? And so it kept taking me back to the teaching series that we were doing 5 years ago, the last time that I shared. And we were doing a series called Road Trip. And during it, the speakers were tasked with sharing a little exercise that we called a life map. And it's super easy to do, and I'm going to invite you to do it like later, not right now, but super easy. You don't have to be an artist. You just take a piece of paper and you draw a line from left to right. And on the left side, you put a line, and that's going to be the day you were born. And then on the right is today, however old that you are. And in between that, you're going to record just the really big moments in your life. They could be good, they could be fun, they could be bad, painful. Your events on the timeline will look very different from mine. These are events, though, that impacted us. They impacted us greatly, and what we saw from that was some kind of change in our life. So that's the challenge, is to put those events on paper that you identified as being life-changing. So I'm going to give you the abbreviated version. I'm not going to give you all 52 years because you would go to sleep and you would leave or be scared. I don't know. But my first core memory, and I like to use core memory because my 6th grade small group girls have taught me that. Like, it's not a memory, it's not an event, it's a core memory. It's something that really is burned into my soul. Was the first time I went to Disney World. I think I was 4. I don't know how old I was. I don't know what I ate. I don't know what I wore. I don't know what rides I was in. But this I know. The magic of Disney was created in me that day. I felt it to my bones, and it has continued now that it's passed to my daughter, and it's something that we love to do, is to go to Disney World. If you have kids and you want to go to Disney, you want to do your thing, and you want a babysitter, I'll go. I don't even have to ride the rides. I'll go along. That's how much I love Disney. Just let me go, even in the heat. So a few years passed by, and I'm in 3rd grade. I made a really bad grade on a test, really bad, and I just could not take it home to my parents. No way. So I was crafty. I did what all smart 3rd graders do, and I said, I'll sign it myself. Nobody will ever know. Well, the joke was on me because my 3rd grade teacher, Mrs. Sabilski, and my parents grew up together, and they were indeed friends. Needless to say, I think they got a big laugh out of this when Mrs. Sabilski called my mom and told her what I had done. So they got a good laugh. I got a big punishment. Never did it again, never tried to sign my mother's name. When I was 13, my grandfather, who we called Papa, just the light of my life. I mean, he was the most fun. We fished together. He was my buddy. And he and my grandmother were living with us at the time, and he had a stroke. And this stroke left him with the inability to speak, and he was paralyzed. And it was a big shift in my family because he actually had to live in a hospital for the rest of his life. And this was the first time I remember feeling like, man, life is just not always going to be easy. It was my first real broken heart, and I knew my life wasn't going to be the same after that. So then came a really, really fun time. Oh, I forgot something important. Let me back up. Got a little ahead of myself. 9th grade, okay? I wasn't super popular in 9th grade. I didn't have a lot of dates, that kind of thing, but this guy who was 2 years older than me took an interest, and we dated for a little bit. It was great. I was madly in love, and I just knew he was the love of my life. We were going to get married. We were going to have kids, picket fence. You know, come on, ladies, 9th grade. That's real. That's a real dream, right? It's going to come true. Well, he really, really broke my heart. Didn't work out, but it made the timeline. So then there came a really exciting, except yet terrifying time. I went to college. So, you know, fun. There's freedom. It's exciting, but boy, were there some trials and lots of bad decisions in those years. I got into nursing school, and things are going really well. And then in my 3rd year of nursing school, my grandmother was killed in a car wreck. And this one absolutely rocked me. It rocked me to the core because it left me so lost and confused and angry. It's the first time that I remember thinking, wow, God, you're just not very nice. If you were a good God, you would not have taken my precious grandmother in this way, not in a car wreck. And so, again, that's the first time I remember thinking just really, really lost, confusing and angry thoughts. And a lot of that was directed at God. Go on later, and marriage comes along, and it was fantastic. I'm so thankful God knew what he was doing when he took the 9th grade boy, and he said, nope, not that one. we've got somebody better for you. And so God put Kevin into my life, and then we had two awesome kids, Shelby and Trevor. And so, we've been married 25 years, and we have great kids. Been lots of trials, lots of good times, but they definitely make that timeline. In 2011, I lost my best friend in a car wreck. And then in 2012, we started going to church here. And that's when I made a conscientious decision, a very intentional decision to chase after Jesus, that I wanted a relationship with Jesus. So lots of events happened in those years following that, but the most recent thing that I'm going to talk about is a year ago, April, my husband and daughter and I, we were having the best Friday. He took off work, we went and played pickleball, we were headed to eat breakfast, and unfortunately we changed our mind from going to the Waffle House to Cracker Barrel, and in between that, we had a wreck, and we get rear-ended twice, and from that, I had a neck injury, and everything changed. Everything changed in my life when that happened. The pain kept me from being able to sleep, which made me very grumpy. I couldn't no longer do the things I loved, like playing pickleball. And I know that sounds kind of silly, but pickleball for me, there was a whole community of people that I played with, that I had this bond with. They encouraged me and they loved me. And it was a way that I was able to stay active and exercise. So it had a great effect on me when I could no longer do some of those things. And eventually, I became quite frustrated and discouraged because, after a year of dealing with a trial of any kind, things can become very heavy. Can you agree with that? They just keep going. There we are. So this past April, God just made something happen for me. And it was something I never thought I would say yes to, but it was offered that I could go to a 5-day counseling intensive. And the place I went was called Ranch of Hope, and it was in Colorado in the middle of nowhere. I don't even think I don't know what the name of the city is. I'm not even sure it was a city because there was nothing there. It was just literally in the middle of the mountains, and big leap of faith. The whole time I'm doing this process of getting ready to go there, and I'm in the plane. I remember I'm in the plane. I'm like, what are you doing, April? You're a scaredy cat. You're flying by yourself, and you're going to stay with these people you don't know, and you're going to sit for 5 days and talk to this man about your life. Whole thing was just insane. But so that's where I'm going to end, and I'm going to pick up with this. There's just a few events in my life. Like I said, there's a lot of other ones that I could talk about. But when I look back at these trials, I see my life take a change in a certain direction with each and every one. I may not have been aware of them at the time, but I was changing. So what I didn't mention in my timeline were the decisions that came in between all of those trials. I made these decisions out of reactions to the events that I was experiencing. And so each event left me with a decision to make. How was I going to react to them? So these reactions were sometimes consciously made, but many of them I wasn't even aware that I was even experiencing a trial or that I was reacting. I certainly didn't recognize that I was changing. I was just aimlessly walking through them just to get through them. So if you did this exercise, the timeline exercise, and I really, really hope that you will, I think you will agree with me that you will identify more trials than good times in our life. The good times, they happen fast. They come and, like how many times, I've been at Disney World, I don't want this to end. This is the greatest thing, but it was over in no time. But the trials just don't go away. So these just had the potential. They just are going to make a bigger impact in our life because they're hard. So let's face it, the trials in our life are the ones that are going to stick out the most, and they're the ones that have the potential to shape us the most. So here's the thing about trials that I want you to think about. If we just go aimlessly through them and we don't stop to process and work through the trials, we'll end up at the end of our life map feeling lost and confused and questioning what our purpose was. And to be very honest, that's where I was before I went to Colorado. I'd been trying so hard to manage life with this injury and the trial that I was going through. And it wasn't just the car wreck, understand, it just put me in a position through this extended trial where I just was really deep in my thoughts and I was thinking about things, and it just more and more trials started happening. And I was so tired. I was really, really tired. So in counseling, we did a similar timeline exercise. It was just verbal between Dave and I. And we focused a lot on the first 25 years of my life when the most of the heavy trials had occurred. And he used the word, he said, April, you've had a lot of trauma in your life. And I was like, Dave, that's not trauma. I don't have trauma. What are you talking about? That's not trauma. But I started to accept that, yeah, there were things that were very traumatic in my life. I saw trials I never dealt with because they were too hard. And ultimately, I recognized that because of the way I handled them or didn't handle them, I had developed some really, really poor coping skills. And that was just primarily me not dealing with them. I just pushed through. I depended on my own strength. But one thing that I was able to identify, there was a hard break in my timeline, and that was 2012. And before 2012, before I began this intentional relationship with Jesus and after, there is a huge shift in the way that I handled my trials, the decisions I made. So on day 3 of the week in Colorado, so what we would do is every day we would talk for 3 or 4 hours, and then he'd say, okay, now April, go work on it. Like, go work on it. Go journal, go spend time with God, pray about it, think about it. And the good thing about being in the mountains with nothing, there was no distraction. And it was so nice just to be quiet with God. And so this one thought just kept coming back to me when I was thinking about the words he was using to me about my life. But this thought came to me. Trials are not bad. They feel really, really bad. In that moment, they feel terrible. But the trial itself is not bad. And that if I could just humble myself and allow God to work in me, I could be transformed. So there's something great that can come out of the trials if we allow them to. And that was a new revelation for me in that time that I was there. To think something great can come out of a trial, it's very difficult to see. Do you agree with me on that? All right. I like this. You're giving me some feedback. I like it. But I think we can agree, like we just said that. We agree. It's easier to see how God could work in the good times, but not the bad times. So maybe you can identify with some of these thoughts that I was able to uncover when thinking about my personal trials. And so here's some things that went through my head in the past. If he's a good God, why did he let this stroke happen? Why did he take my granddaddy's ability to be able to speak and to be funny? Because he was so funny and he took that from us. If he's a loving God, why did he allow people to hurt us? If he loves me, why would he let people try to harm me? If he's for us, then why do we experience disappointments? How does he take an illness, a death, a loss of a loved one, a car wreck, and use it for good? So here's the deal. Trials are going to happen. That is most definitely certain. But the question for us is, what are we going to do with them? What is the purpose in the trial that we are going through? And I think before we can answer that question, we must understand this one thing. Nothing in our life happens without purpose. Nothing. God didn't design us to walk aimlessly without purpose. And if we choose to live our life that way, just walking aimlessly through our trials, we're going to end up being very unfulfilled and disconnected from him. We're just always going to be searching for the meaning of life. So this begs the question for us, what's the purpose of our trials? What's the purpose for your trial, for my trial? And we're going to sit in the book of James for most of this, and I just love the way that he says this. He does an excellent job illustrating how God can use trials, his goodness in those trials, and how we ourselves can position ourselves in such a way to be transformed and to fulfill our purpose. So the thing to remember about this is James it's a letter. So I love to read the letters in the Bible. It speaks directly to me. It connects with me. And he's writing it to believers. And so those are the people that have put their trust in Jesus. It's the people that understood who God is, and they've seen his faithfulness. So they're experiencing great persecution and famine. So we don't have the same persecutions and famines, but maybe you feel like I do sometimes in the middle of the trial. It feels like persecution. It hurts. It feels like I am being persecuted. This bad thing is happening and I can't do anything about it. And it also can give us the sensation of being starved. And that starvation thing for me was, I was feeling like I was in a spiritual famine because I was so discouraged. So you can feel persecuted, and you can identify with that famine that he's talking of from here. And so when I look back, I see this in my life and so many of my trials. And my trials are different from yours, and ours are very different from the people that he is speaking to here. But there are some truths that remain the same. And there's three that I want to discuss with you. The first one is trials reveal God's goodness, which changes absolutely everything. So we're going to continue to read this passage. So I'm going to repeat myself, so just hang with me. But it's just such a good passage that has so much in it. So we're going to sit in James 1, 2 through 4. And it says, "Consider it great joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you experience various trials, because you know that the testing of your faith produces endurance. And let endurance have its full effect, so that you may be mature and complete, lacking nothing." So at first glance, if you read this quickly, you're like, what? It looks like he's saying we can find joy and be blessed because of the trials, but that's not what he's saying at all. The key word is because and how you read it. It does not read you're blessed because of the trial. It's saying we can have joy because when we stand the test, when we don't run from our emotions, when we don't blame others or God, but when we trust in him in the trial, we will receive the gift that has been promised. So why do you think we have such a hard time seeing God's goodness? Why is it so hard to see God's goodness in the really hard trials? My belief is, I think it's because we're being deceived. See, when we're weak and we're struggling in our trial and we're depending on ourselves to get through it, the enemy will try to confuse it. He will try to confuse us on everything that we believe. He has lots of tactics for us, and the tactics he uses against you are very different from me. But what he uses on me is shame and guilt. He knows that when I am weak, when I am tired, he's going to push that button, that shame and guilt button. That my mistakes and my sins that I made out of the hurt and confusion of my trials were the reason for those trials. So some of our trials, they are due to our decisions, but I'm talking about this irrational thing that we do in our trial where we blame ourselves and we think, oh, it's certainly because of my sins. And the best example I can give this to you is with my grandmother. So much shame and guilt. I blamed myself for her because if I was where I was supposed to be, my grandmother wouldn't have been in the car that day. But that's the enemy. That's the enemy. And he used that on me for years. And he made me live in my shame and guilt in that trial. I allowed that to happen. So the enemy would love for us to believe that if God was good, powerful, loving, and a forgiving God, he wouldn't allow these trials to happen. In James 1, 16 through 18, it says, "Don't be deceived, my dear brothers and sisters. Every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights, who does not change like shifting shadows. By his own choice, he gave us birth by the word of truth, so that we would be a kind of first fruits of his creatures." So we're being instructed here, do not be deceived. Be constantly aware of the input that we're receiving, the things that we are believing. We must be armed with the truth of who God is, and that's that he is loving and powerful and merciful, and he promises to love and guide us and to protect us. Through every trial, he is unchanging. So again, this is a truth. We can find it all throughout Scripture. Like there's so many examples when you go back and you read just stories of God's faithfulness in the trial. But in Jeremiah 29:11, I love the way that this just speaks to me. It's a promise to the nation of Israel, and it just clearly speaks to God's character. And it says, "For I know the plans I have for you." This is the Lord's declaration. "Plans for your well-being, not for disaster, to give you a future and a hope." So this gives me such great comfort, and I hope it does you. He has plans for me, and he has plans for you. And that does not include hurting me or you. It's a promise. It's a promise for a hope, for future, for purpose. And the goodness of God is evident in the promises and the character of who he is. So again, when we can see the goodness of God, it changes how we view the trials. when we trust these promises, trust who he is, trust that he does not want to hurt us, but that he has purpose, it changes how we view the trials. So when I look back and I see God moving in the lives of the people that cared for my grandfather at the hospital, I can remember hearing Mimi describe them. She was like, they are just like angels. Like, they're so kind, and they care for me, and they look after Papa, and they pray with me. They made this huge impact in my grandmother's life, my mother's life, all of us, because they were caring for him. And this ultimately inspired me to want to care for others. It was like the first time I remember this concept of like seeing the light of Jesus working through other people. And that's what led me to want to be a nurse. Me realizing that, it took away a lot of the confusion. It took a lot away of the angry feelings that I was having. I could see some purpose in the trial. When I look back and I see how my family drew closer to God, and we began going to church for the first time in many years after the death of my best friend, it changed how I viewed one of the hardest times of my life. Because I could see him working in that moment. I could see him just working in through the people that were surrounded us here at this church, that people were loving on us and they were guiding us, and I was leaning into him. It changed everything. I could see purpose in the trial. So when I see how God is redeeming my story, which is full of mistakes, by positioning me in a place where I can work with teenagers, where maybe I'm having a conversation with a teenager who is struggling with her decisions or his decisions, I can see it. It helps me because I'm helping her to understand that her mistakes do not separate her from God, but that he sees her and that he loves her despite of those choices. Me being able to do that and to share my story of my mistakes and my trials, it changes everything from me. It changes my guilt and my shame into a story of redemption because God is using it. So when we choose to see his goodness, it changes how we see our trials. So I'm about to make a statement I want you to understand. I'm not inviting any more trials, okay? I need the enemy to hear that. It's been a really trying year or so, okay? So I said something earlier. I'm going to use a different story. It's a funny story. So earlier I was talking about my trial today. My trial is being up in front of you. This is difficult. It's not my most comfortable thing. It's a trial, but I'm leaning into it. Couldn't figure out what to do with my hair this morning to keep the mic out. So earlier I said, I'm going to go to my office and I'm going to put on a little lip gloss because my lips are dry. Well, I didn't realize that I picked up lip gloss that is actually plumping lip gloss. So if you've ever used this, I'm primarily talking to the ladies, I think, there's cayenne pepper in there. So before I came into this service, my lips were on fire. So we have to see the fun in some of the trials too. But this is just what I want to share, that I'm going to make a choice. I'm choosing to lean into the trials because I know that when I do, I can trust that there I will find God. And that applies to you too. We can trust his promises that he is going to be there for us. Number 2, trials can bring us closer to God. One common variable I can pinpoint in every single trial in my life is my first response is to take control. I may not control all of it, but I'm going to find something to control. And I might have been called a control freak before in the past. I own it. I know this about myself. It's the way I handle what I'm going through. Because I feel like if I'm controlling it, everything's okay. But we know that's not true. And the problem is I'm depending on me when I do that. So what's your first response? Do you try to control it or do you just give it to God? What's your first response? I think you agree we try to control it. The problem with this is going to sting a little bit because the first time that a friend of mine shared it with me, it stung, and it still stings a little bit when I think about it. The problem with this is that we're acting out of arrogance and pride. It's arrogant and prideful to live that way, to think that we can control it. Because God didn't design us to live that way. He did not design us to rely on our own strength and not his. So trials, they just seem to last forever. They just keep going. When we have a devastating medical diagnosis, when we lose a loved one, or we experience a trauma, it just doesn't go away overnight. They typically just drag on and on and on again. And I shared with you, for me, I became very tired. And when we try to carry the load alone, we get overwhelmed. And possibly through that tiredness, through that feeling of being overwhelmed, we actually begin to lose faith. And we're just not designed to do it on our own. So in Psalm 34, 17 through 19, I want to share with you, this is David talking, and this is same David, the shepherd boy, David of David and Goliath, David and Bathsheba story. Like, this dude lived a lot of life, right? He had some trials that were his own fault, but he had a lot of trials just along the way. So I love the way that he shares this with us here. He says, the righteous cry out, and the Lord hears, delivering them from all of their troubles. The Lord is near the brokenhearted. He saves those crushed in spirit. Many adversities, which are trials, they will come to the one who is righteous, but the Lord delivers him from them all. So he promises to come when we call him, to comfort us, to deliver us. He promises to be near us when we're crushed and we're brokenhearted. Even in the hardest times where we do not feel like we can get up out of the bed, we just can't face the trial that we're facing. We cannot imagine our life being lived without that person because our heart is so broken. He promises that he will be near us when we are crushed and when we are brokenhearted, and he will never leave us. So when trials come, and they surely will, he promises that we just draw near to him. It's a simple promise, very simple statement. Draw near to him, he will draw near to us. So we've established a few truths here. Number one, that trials reveal God's goodness, and that changes everything. And number two, that trials can bring us closer to God. The third thing I want to share that I've been learning over the last few weeks is that trials reveal growth and transformation. There's got to be a purpose to it, right? There's got to be a purpose to all of this that we're going through. I'm going to read that same passage from James again, but I'm going to read it to you in the Message version because I like the way that it words it here. And it says, consider it a sheer gift, friends, when tests and challenges come at you from all sides. You know that under pressure, your faith life is forced into the open and it shows your true colors. So don't try to get out of anything prematurely. Don't try to control it. Don't try to run from it. He's saying sit in it. Don't try to get out of it. Let it do its work so you become mature and well-developed, not deficient in any way. He's telling us there's purpose in this, that when we let it do its work, we won't be deficient. So trials are coming from all directions. They're going to put us under great pressure, and I don't like, maybe that's why I try to control a trial. I don't want my weaknesses to show. I don't want to be weak. I don't want to be vulnerable. And it exposes that, and that's what makes us so uncomfortable. But I believe that if we try not to avoid them or cover them up or justify them, and we just allow God to work in them, we can be transformed. If you try to shortcut the trial, you are circumventing God's whole plan and purpose. And by doing the work it takes to heal and lean into God, letting endurance have its full effect, we are being positioned in such a way that God can use those trials for good. So looking back on the trials in my life and seeing God's goodness and faithfulness in those trials, it's changed me forever. Going back, the first time I did this 5 years ago, and I began to see just how faithful and loving, the times where I was so deeply hurt, that I doubted who I was, that God showed up and he showed me, I am strong, I am courageous, I can do this because I am with you. When I felt like I couldn't just go on again any further because my heart was so broken, and I can see him working in my life over time. Like I said, it may not show up right then, it may take years, but when you look back and you see his faithfulness and you see his goodness, you change, you're transformed, your faith will grow. So during the timeline exercise, again, is so very important, and I really, really hope that you will do it when you leave today or during the week. It's not always easy, especially when the trial is super heavy. It's going to take practice. This isn't a one and done deal. You're not going to have one really big trial and say, okay, that's it. You're all done with your trials in your life. It never stops. It never stops. So we have to practice and we have to work on it. We have to be ready for them. And by trusting in God and allowing Him to work through our lives, like I said, He transforms those difficulties into opportunities for growth and fulfillment of His purpose in our lives. For many years, I missed it. I missed it because I didn't want to sit in it. I didn't want to feel the pain. I did not want to do that. I just wanted to get through it and forget it ever happened. But that made me miss seeing God working in those moments. Taking those 5 days to sit in my emotions and the decisions that were the results of the trials in my life humbled me immensely. And being humbled is really good, really good. In our moments of humility, we open our hearts and our minds for God to do such great work. And doing this and going for that intensive counseling and being alone and spending time with God, like I said, it humbled me and I grew closer to God. So the work is not done. It never will be, but we just have to choose to lean in it from now on. So when trials come for you, are you going to lean into it? Are you going to run towards God and let Him do the work? Or are you going to run from Him? And you're just going to run aimlessly, trying to do it your way. So how might your present trials look if you trusted God's goodness and you allowed Him to work through them? If you didn't run or you didn't try to control them, how might your life look different right now, the trials that you're in? If you view them as opportunities and not something bad, how might that change how you feel about your past trials and those past mistakes that you made, the decisions that came out of them? And I think it's important that we do this constantly, like I said, because it's not going to stop. We got to look at our past and our present, and we got to be ready. We got to do the work. We got to do the discipline of doing this because another trial is coming, and we have to be ready for it. So I don't know what your trials are that you're facing right now or what you've faced in the past. But I do know that God doesn't want us facing them alone. He doesn't want us to believe the enemy when he tries to confuse us and tell us that our trials are due to our mistakes or to make us doubt his love. He does not want us to be crushed or broken because of these trials. He does not want us to stay in our pain, in our shame, our guilt, or our despair. He wants us close to him. He is asking us, draw near to me, call me, I will come to you, I will meet you there. And I have a promise for you. I have a promise of a future. I have a promise of comfort. I promise not to hurt you or to harm you, that there is goodness in the trial. So it may feel really, really heavy right now. But what I would like to say to you is don't turn back. Don't shy away from just diving into the emotions and a little bit into the pain of the trials that you've had. Because when you do, and you can find the opportunities in there where you see God's goodness working in your life, he can use those for good. That part we can control. That is up to us. He can't do it without us. And so we're going to circle back to the song, God is Able. And the whole song is just so fantastic. Like just to sit and worship and listen to the lyrics of this song. But I'm going to read just this one part of it. And it says, I've come a long way. I've seen how you work. There's so much goodness and grace, so much more than I deserve. We've come this far by faith, and I just can't turn back because he's not done with me yet. And so the emotions are just out of such gratitude that God loves us so much, that he loves us despite what we do, and that he promises to love us and comfort us in the trials that are going to continue to come. So my challenge is don't stop. Don't stop. Don't let the trial get you. Just keep pushing through. Surround yourself with God and keep chasing after him. Surround yourself by people that are going to love you and they're going to encourage you and they're going to keep reminding you of God's goodness and the purpose of the trial. So God, we just want to say thank you. Just thank you for this day and that God, just despite the fact that the trials are going to keep coming, and we know that, God, but we can just rest in peace knowing that you are faithful. You're so faithful that we can trust your promises to be there with us, to carry that load, that we don't have to carry that burden by ourselves, that that's not what you want for our life. And so, God, I just pray that no matter what people in this room or at home that are watching, like whatever trial it is, God, I just pray that we can just sit in that trial, that we can sit in it and we can seek you in it, that we can just ask you to show the opportunities, like what are the opportunities in the trial, God? Like how do you want to use this trial for good, God? And that we will just humble ourselves and be ready just to take whatever you point us towards. So God, we just love you and we just thank you for your son, and it's in his name we pray. Amen.
You are more than able. And you are more than able. And you are more than come a long way. I've seen how you work, and there's so much goodness and grace, and much more than I deserve, 'cause I know who I am, and I can't stay where I'm at. This far by faith, and I just can't turn back. He's not done with me yet. He's not done with me yet. And there's so much more to the story. Oh, you're not done with me. So who am I to deny what the Lord can do? And who am I to deny what the Lord can do? My God is more than able. And God is more than able. And God is more than able. And God is more than able. So who am I to deny what the Lord can do? And who am I to deny what the Lord can do?
so glad that you chose to be here this morning. So glad that you were here. It was an amazing morning. Hey, a few things before you head out. One is, if it is your first time or you're again looking to connect, please stop by one of the tents. They would love to meet. We'd love to just help you understand more and how you can step into just find your next step here at Christ Church Camden. When you walked in, you were also handed a us help our teachers and support our students as we come close to school starting up again. And then also, if you came this morning ready to partner with us in generosity, there's a few really easy ways you can do that with an usher at the door or online or through our app. We're so thankful for you as you move the mission forward and, of course, help us fix flooding. Anyway, and last thing, hey, if you're here this morning and you would just love to pray with someone, would love to have someone pray with you, there's always someone in the back by that banner that says prayer. And bonus, don't forget to stop by the ice cream truck on your way out. We hope you have an amazing Sunday, a great week. We'll see you again next week.
The real thing, found the real one. You could tell the world, keep the fake love, 'cause I've been brand new since I woke up. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, let's go. Never was enough till I met you. Got the real thing, found the real one. You could tell the world, keep the fake love, 'cause I've been brand new till never was enough. Never was enough till I met you. Got the real thing, found the real one. You could tell the world, keep the fake love, 'cause I've been brand new since I woke up. I've been brand new since I woke up. Till the sun sets pretty as me indeed. I've been brand new since I woke up. What you wanna do today? I said, hey, what you wanna do today? Sometimes you choose to have a good day. Look at your blues and turn the other way. Ignore the news for just a few, say no more gray. I'm okay, I'll make a getaway. Lace up my shoes to go and meet babe. We'll rendezvous at that cafe. Girl, we can do whatever you say. Go catch a matinee, pray for some sunny rays. I'm alright, baby, would you be my tag along? We can meet our friends in the mall at the Cinnabon. Bet you never thought that any day could be fun. Bet you never heard a ukulele on a rap song. Finger stepping, cause you know I feel like rapping. And I see the tails are tapping and all of the kids are clapping. Today it is meant for laughing and do it what you imagine. So buckle your belt and strap and you dream, you gon' make it happen, Kevin. This day was marvelous, and when the sun sets we will tell